Earlier today I was at the Electronic Arts press conference, and while EA usually doesn't show off a whole lot of new stuff, there were some interesting surprises.
Yeah.
Even though that we've already seen plenty of shooters in earlier press conferences, the interesting thing about Medal of Honor in particular was actually that they're going to be using the Frostbite 2 engine, and so you can see it in some of the smoke effects.
The destruction was really cool. A lot of cover crumbling away, and that pier that showed the soldiers going under the pier, and they were getting sniper fire, and it was just like crumbling over their head. It was really cool.
It was a little bit of a, the old Saving Private Ryan sort of, Normandy Beach thing, but it was noticeable, like you said, for the debris and from the smoke. And then later on, they showed that little remote robot that you could kind of use to take out enemies. It's also going to be used in multiplayer when they're highlighting as one of sort of, the different world elite forces factions. That'll be.
You can choose from around the world, like who you want to.
Yeah, Poland, Russia, the British, the Canadians. It looks like that'll be in someone's arsenal as well. And then, sort of shifting onto some other things, of course, EA Sports, a lot of big announcements for, EA Sports FIFA Football Club, which is kind of an identity that'll follow you around from last year's FIFA to this year's FIFA. Madden's going to be doing a whole new physics system, which we've got a trailer up on our website where you can see it, as well as the new way they're doing their franchise career system, online and offline. And then I think one of the bigger things also there was Need for Speed. Anybody who's a Need for Speed fan is really going to like how Criterion's taking the franchise. They've already done Need for Speeds before, but this one in particular really feels kind of like a callback to Burnout Paradise. Yeah, and I'm just in general, I'm not a huge racing fan, but I like Burnout, so it was really cool to kind of see that Burnout vibe running through that trailer, so that made me excited. Yeah, it's a lot of open world stuff, and one of the really cool things that I think Burnout fans will notice is that you're going to be getting. They talked about the whole autolog thing with your friends, and one of the things they'll be having is checkpoint, or knock down gates. Who's knocking down all the gates in the world? Who's doing things like their little speed zones, or who can get the fastest speed through a short section of the city. So that's cool. I mean, like I said, if you're not a racer fan, I think you're gonna just tool around, right?
And then there was SimCity too, which they didn't show a lot of, but I mean, it looks nice. Was it the Glassbox engine? Looks cool.
Yes. Finally, one of the other sort of things that they talk about was, for sports fans, or just sort of, action fans in general, is the UFC license. It used to be with THQ, and so this is going to be a big pickup for them.
So right after Electronic Arts, we saw Ubisoft, which it seemed like their big push was Wii U. They had a lot of Wii U stuff. You'd think with a new console coming out, Electronic Arts would have maybe tried to throw in some Wii U stuff, but it seemed like all Ubisoft. They had Rayman was looking really cool, Zombie U, no gameplay or anything, but it was a cool trailer. You know, a lot of zombie killing.
And for anybody who's following, that actually used to be Killer Mutants from Outer Space. It used to be a game that they showed last year. It was just in a trailer form, and now it looks totally different. And pretty cool.
Yeah, they showed Avengers, which was didn't really blow my mind.
It was announced, a couple weeks ago. Shouldn't be too much, but it's interesting you mentioned Wii U. I just going to go back of previously the brass at Ubisoft. The CEO actually has mentioned he's been all about new platforms, and he's always thought, we need a new platform right now to spur our ideas, to get our developers thinking, and clearly, like you said, with the Wii U, they're hitting the ground running.
Ubisoft's always been pretty good about getting launch titles on new systems. I mean, even if it's stuff like Raving Rabbids or something, they're always, first in line to try to get on the new stuff.
One of the things that I saw that was really interesting, I don't know if you mentioned it, was Rayman Legends.
Yeah.
And one of the really cool things about that was it really showed off the gamepad, where you could have one player controlling Rayman, side-scrolling like you normally do. Hey, how are you doing?
Good.
Okay, can we make a cut there? One of the things that they talked about was Rayman Legends, and it really showed off the gamepad and how one player could be controlling Rayman, just like in Rayman Origins, and use side-scrolling, but the other one is controlling a new character called Murphy. And as you sort of touch on the gamepad screen, he's going through, interacting with the levels, removing enemies, helping you solve puzzles, and even they had kind of a rhythm music level. Where you could go, Murphy, as the player tapped the screen, was more kind of laying down the backbeat and some of the rhythm, while the player who was controlling Rayman and Globox in this particular level was actually, highlighting some of more of the melodic lines throughout the music, as it was kind of a self-propelled level as you kind of was going, and the camera was shifting, and it was all sort of being done for you, but it was kind of a nice flow level.
But one of the big things that Ubisoft shows Assassin's Creed 3 which I think all of us were just like in awe of his amazing tree climbing animations.
Yeah.
Like it's just like the little things, like the way the snow reacts and like just the way he moves climbing through trees. It's weird that it becomes so impressive. But
and it sounds kind of weird. You know, I'm jumping through trees. You know, buildings made sense in the previous AC games, but when you watch it and you look at it and as it's going, it just looks so fluid and just so natural.
And it also had that kind of like defensive combat where you're sort of waiting, you know, to defend attacks and use their might against them. But he was doing it with like animals. Like it was weird how that it looked like it translated really well. Like he was fighting a group of wolves, just like Ezio would fight like a group of soldiers.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I fight wolves, I'm always, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm always coming to you for wolf fighting.
I'm a hand-to-hand guy. You know, the knives, the bows, whatever. I like to get in there with my hands. AC3, as big of a game as it wasn't even the best. Ubisoft
it was for like a couple minutes.
Showed.
For like 2 or 3 minutes, we're like, wow, that was amazing. That's the best thing they're going to show. But then they started showing Watch Dogs, which started out, your information is everywhere. It's really easy to take control with, you know, the way this era of information trafficking and stuff like that. And we're like, okay, what is this? And even the trailer or the gameplay, it was just straight gameplay. It was kind of low key because it was just, it started out just this guy walking. And I was like, this looks like a really pretty walking sim.
Is it going to be like Heavy Rain? Like,
yeah,
what is it?
Yeah, and but then it kind of showed off like the character was using his phone to like find out information about everyone around him. He would do like little EMP blasts, kind of like he was knocking out everyone's cell phones around him to create distractions, and like he would deactivate stoplights to create car crashes.
I mean, like you said, like they're taking out some of the cars at the intersection.
Yeah.
And then there was a gunfight that ensued, and you're thinking like, well, who is he shooting? What's going on? Who is he attacking? And it clearly seemed like there's some sort of secret organization, some sort of underground current to this whole thing, and it kind of culminates in kind of an interesting question mark, which is, after the character, kills his target, the camera pulls back and it pulls up to a guy on a rooftop, and you notice that the player you were charactering, you were seeing in this whole trailer, is now a target for somebody else.
Yeah.
Kind of hinting again at the secret societies sort of thing, but also, of course, at multiplayer.
Yeah.
And that everybody is a target for anybody else.
What is this game? It's like going all over the place.
The other thing too is just it makes sense for Ubisoft because these are the guys who brought us the great, Assassin's Creed multiplayer in a universe where you didn't really know how the multiplayer was going to work, and so it makes sense that they would, create another exciting, intriguing, and slightly different take on multiplayer.
Yeah. So we are definitely going to watch Watch Dogs. I apologize for that.
Yeah, we're going to have to go rewatch that trailer and see what else is in there.
Yeah.